We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Hilchot Shabbat, the halachot of Hadlakat Nerot Shabbat, Siman Resh Samech Gimal, and we're up to Seif Vav in Daf Lamed Vav, Amud Bet of the regular prints of your Mishna Berura. As Maran writes, Bachurim HaHolechim Lilmod Chutz LeBeitam, young bachelors who are going out to yeshiva to learn, so they're not home. Even though that they don't have mishpachot, their mishpacha, they have left their parents and they're somewhere else, they still have the mitzvah of Hadlakat Nerot Shabbat. Even though that when they were home, they would not light their own light because their mother is doing it. But here that they are on their own, living separate from their parents to learn the yeshiva, they would have their own mitzvah of Hadlakat Nerot. They will light Hadlakat Nerot in their room. And they will say bracha on it as well. But if you're living with your family, your wife is lighting, you don't need to light in your own room and say bracha. His wife is doing it, one person at home is sufficient, and she'll make sure to see to it that light is available in every place that they walk during the course of Shabbat.
So we 10 people in a dormitory, one person lights that dorm.
That's correct. On behalf of everyone else, now there are those who this becomes a machloket. Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli, many others discuss this, what to do in dormitories of the yeshivot nowadays. But generally speaking, it would be every room having the chiyuv of their own. That would be the simple understanding. Now, sometimes you could get into trouble by having state laws against dormitories having any fire in them. And so on, then you may be better off still to do with incandescent lamps, the night lamps that they have plug in, that you could make a bracha on as well. But again, those are questions to be discussed for everyone that goes through those situations in the dormitories, to be able to say the bracha or not, depending on what the minhag of the yeshiva is, and so on and so forth. Again, this becomes a question, as we mentioned before. Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli's students, they discuss this. Is brought in Oretz Zion Chelek Bet in Perek Yud Chet, I believe, that if your parents are living in the same city as you and they are already madlik Nerot Shabbat, then you don't have to do Nerot Shabbat in your room, he says. Especially if you have light coming in from the windows, already lights from outside. You have light already, so don't make bracha because it's already safek brachot la'akel. But if you don't have any room coming from outside, then you could do with bracha, says Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli. So again, that's what I'm saying. This has layers of complexity for those who want to actually discuss this halacha l'maaseh for themselves or for their sons who are going to the dorms in the yeshivot, depending on what city they're in and how the situation is. This should be discussed on a private way. Says the Shulchan Aruch in Seif Zayin, Oreach she'en lo cheder miyuchad. If you are hosting a guest in your house and they don't have their own room, they're sleeping on the couch, they're sleeping in a room with other people, they don't have their own room, then he can't light his own. They should chip in some money for partial ownership of a few cents, partial ownership in the oil, and this way the mitzvah would be counted for them as well, right? Now, the sons and the daughters and even the brothers and the sisters of the Baal Habayit, that they are adults and they make their own money, they're not supported by you during the course of the week. If they come to eat Seudah with you on the Shabbat, then you don't have to actually go through the whole process of giving you the money. And so, because, min hastam, you are already makneh to them, you are already having in mind that partially the oil should be belonging to them, and he doesn't have to actually give money. They don't have to actually give you money, says Rabbi Moshe Levi in his Sefer Menuchat Ahava. But if you're a stam guest, not family members, then again we have this Maran Shulchan Aruch in Seif Zayin that you should be mishtatef beperutot.
You're not talking about sleeping there, right? You're talking about they come over for dinner and then they go back to their home.
Well, any scenario in which they are not going to be lighting their own lights. So what you're asking makes things complicated, because if I'm coming for Su'udah at 5 o'clock and going back home at 8 o'clock, and I'm going to spend time at home and sleep at home, then the halakha would be best for me to light in my house and put enough oil or fuel that's going to last for me when I come back, and that would be the halakha. Again, so we keep things simple. Let's imagine that they're staying there. That's why he has to mention that the guy does not have his own private room. So it says, says Maran in Seif Chet, Shnayim u'shlosha ba'alei batim ochlim b'makom echad. If a few families are getting together, eating Seudat Shabbat together, right? You have this in hotels, you have this in Shabbatons, right? You have this in many scenarios. If the Baal Batim are getting together, families are getting together, eating Seudat together. So what do you do with Hadlakat Derot? Yesh omrim shkol echad mevarech al menorah shelo. There are those who say that every person would say bracha on their own candle lighting. V'yesh megamgem betavar. And there are those who disagree with this, and they hold that you cannot say your own bracha on your own nerot, right? This is Maran Bet Yosef brings this shita, and he passes like this, as we'll see in just a moment, from the Or Zarua, and he ends off the Seif saying, "V'nachon lizaher b'sfuk brachot v'lo yivarech ela echad." Should be mahmir and not to say bracha. Only one of them would say bracha. Again, they could all light at the same time. Appointing one person to say bracha, have everyone in mind. Everyone will say amen and go light their nerot. This establishes a machloket Maran and Rima, machloket Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, whether or not you say bracha and tosefet or. Or Zarua holds, if you already have light, the nerot Shabbat were instituted in order to have light and not to stumble upon things and fall over yourself, right? If you already have light, who gives you the right to make another bracha? The takana is already done. Therefore, Maran, who's machmir like the Or Zarua, would hold subsequently that you cannot say bracha on tosefet or. Okay? But the Rama says, aval anu enohagin ken. Our minhag is not like that. That means we do say bracha on tosefet or. So this short Maran and even shorter Rama becomes source to a great debate within the Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, whether or not you say bracha on a tosefet or when it comes to Nerot Shabbat, right? So why is this important? This is important in many ways, because first and foremost, if you have light already in the room, even if it's a LED light, when you have light, are you allowed to say bracha on Nerot Shabbat? Right? How about Yom Tov? Shabbat is easy because you could and you should turn off the lights before you light the Shabbat candles, and you say the bracha, and you light everything together, right? L'shem Nerot Shabbat. So the bracha goes on the ceiling, recess lights, and all the tens of thousands of luminance that you have in the room, and also on the candles that add some ambiance to Shabbat. That would be, simple understanding. But what do you do on Yom Tov? You cannot turn off Yom Tov Sheni. You cannot turn off the lights, and that becomes, of course, a very sticky situation and a very good question, halachically speaking, whether or not you would be allowed to do this bracha of Nerot Yom Tov, or to do it perhaps without bracha. Well, how to do it? Should you put a timer to turn them off, and in those 15-20 minutes that you have them off, say the bracha? Becomes questionable. Now, the people who go to hotels, whether it's Pesach hotels or any other situation of Shabbatons and so on and so forth, and people are eating in the dining room in one place, and you want to know if you could light Nerot Shabbat on your own table, each one of them, of course, according to Maran, comes out that you cannot really do that. You would have to have all of them get together, and one does for everyone, or one person does in the dining room, and whoever missed that, they will do it in the rooms upstairs, in their hotel room, so to speak, and that provides a private situation for them to cover their chiyuv av hadlakat nerot as well, right? Now, the minhag of some of the hotels for Pesach hotels or Shabbatons is they put tables covered with thin foil, aluminum foil on top, and it's like they put it next to the dining room, not actually in the dining room, it's in the hallway or in the lobby. They have this a lot. For Chanukah, they have this in Eretz Yisrael. You go to the lobby of hotels, there are tons of Chanukios in there. And for Shabbat also, they have in the lobby of the hotel, and all the women come there to light with bracha on this one table, right? Because again, you have to deal with legality of having fire inside public buildings and so on and so forth. So Chacham Badia says in Chazon Badia, this is bracha labatala. You can't say Nerot Shabbat. You're eating in the dining room. You're living up in the room. What is lobby going to do for you when there's so much light already? Forget about the luminance of the lighting of the hotel, but already somebody said a bracha, right? You can't say your own bracha afterwards, especially because the ikar of the kavod and oneg of Shabbat is by Seudah. This is not Makom Seudah. Makom Seudah is in the dining room. This is not the dining, this is the lobby of the hotel. So therefore, you should not do that. Certainly not for the Sfaradim. Ashkenazim have what to rely on. That's probably why the Rabbanut Harashit in Eretz Yisrael allows that. But nevertheless, certainly for Sfaradim, that's something to be mindful of. Now, if you're going again to the hotels, you could have your own incandescent night lamp that you plug in and you turn. It's okay, again, you could do it in a place that doesn't disturb the sleeping at night, and that would be also fine. Now, the question is, can you do it in the bathroom or not? Because the Ramah later on speaks about the fact that you can't have nakedness in front of Nerot Shabbat. It's disrespectful. You can't even have ketanim, young kids running around, it's a certain age that they take off their diapers and they're running. So that becomes a whole question. In front of Nerot Shabbat, it's disrespectful to have that. So can you do the light, the incandescent night lamp in the bathroom of the hotel, and that, akifin, the light comes also a little bit to the room, but then you could close the door and go to sleep if you're sensitive to the light. That becomes a good question that has to be discussed again with your more local more hora'ah. But again, the Ramah and following that, the general minhag of Ashkenazim is that they do say bracha on Tosefet Or. Now, some of the Moroccan communities, they have a lot of their minhagim based on the Ramah. Again, Moroccans, in many ways, they accepted the hora'ot of Rosh. They even have a shtar Kabbalah of the psakim of the Rosh, even though that they also are bound by Kibalnu Hora'ot Maran, but custom-wise, their minhagim, a lot of it is based on the Ramah, and this is one of those that Rav Shalom Masas, he writes in his Tshuvot Sheveshum again, that in this area, to say bracha and Tosefet Or, the minhag was like the Ramah. So again, if you see a Moroccan do that, don't scream at them. A, because it may be dangerous, but B, because it will be their minhag that they're following, and it will be certainly what to rely on, because we don't say safek brachot la'akel neged minhag. Again, this gets into more complex areas of halakha. And in Turkey, Rabbi Yitzchak Palagi, he also writes about this in Yafel Alev. This is what to talk about this, but again, the general general minhag of the Sfaradim is, of course, like Maran, as the Kaf HaChaim and many others write, and of course, as is brought in multiple places in Chacham Obadiah's Sfarim, Chazon Obadiah, and others, and Rabbi Shaul, again, the chain, unbroken chain of the Sephardi poskim as well. Now, this, of course, segues into what we mentioned, whether or not in my own house can I light when there's luminance, when the light is on. Is that also considered Tosefet? Or maybe Ner Shabbat always adds a little bit something, because what we said is different people lighting Nerot Shabbat. That's for sure a problem. But how about me having some light somewhere else, and now I want to light Nerot Shabbat with bracha? Is that also Asur because it's Tosefet or is that Mutar? So Rabbi Shaul writes that's not considered Tosefet or. You can still say the bracha and light candles because that already adds a certain ambiance. Can you go to restaurants? They always have candles, and this candles is something that adds kavod and oneg to the seudah, to the time that you're spending. But l'maaseh, many others disagree with that, and the chatchila, as we mentioned, and this is what Chacham Obadiah and Chazon Obadiah says also, this is nachon me'od, very much appropriate to turn off the lights before you say the bracha, and you say the bracha and you turn on the lights and the Nerot Shabbat, and that would be the proper conduct as we mentioned before. So that's Seif Chet of Shulchan Aruch. Let's do just one more Seif over here as well. Seif Tet says Amadlik bezaviot habayit. If you are lighting Nerot in the corners of the house, ve'ochlim b'chaser, and you're eating in the chaser, you're eating in the courtyard, right? Im ena nerot arukot shtorkot ad halayla, if your candles are not long enough that they will last until you come back from outside in, so then you have got a problem over here, right? Have bracha lebatala. You're saying the bracha when it's light still outside before shkia. Then you go outside to eat outside. When you come back in, or it's already done. Another example: you're lighting, you're going to shul, you're going to eat by somebody else, and you're having this like regular paraffin candles that are 4 hours maximum, right? It says on them, whatever it says on the box is maximum, right? It's not going to be more than that. So 4 hours, you're not going to be back home. By the time you come back home, it's off. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Haveh bracha lebatala. You're saying bracha in vain. What are you saying bracha for what? You're not going to be benefiting anything from these candles. And therefore, you have to be mindful not to allow that to happen. If you are light where you're eating, or if you're lighting at home and you're going to be eating somewhere else, make sure to have enough oil or long enough candles that is going to be on still when you come back home. We'll, B'ezrat Hashem, continue Seif Yud going forward in the days to come. Chazak u'Baruch.